First of all, we as Brahma Kumaris within our organization, we always greet by saying Om Shanti. And Om Shanti means I am peace. So this is what I am, peace, and what you are also peace. So we always greet, whether we have to say hello, we have to say goodbye, whatever it is, we always say Om Shanti. These are magic words actually. It's so interesting when we heard the news that 100 plus so many countries accepted, because we had heard about this day being declared, but there was so much acceptance by so many countries. That means the word yoga has become very well known, very popular. It was early 70s, I think it's 72, when we still had a lot of communist countries in Europe. And I remember visiting some countries in East Europe because they came to our headquarters in Mount Abu. And so they were trading, like at the border, they want to buy some books about yoga. And so I was invited and I had to spend about 10 days with them. And at that time, they had to bring me not as a spiritual teacher or as a spiritual meditator, but they had to bring me under, they call it Hatha Yoga, that's what she will be doing. So I'm just saying that then I was in Germany, early 60s, and what I found that because of the lifestyle, because of the stress, because of people trying to this whole seeking of finding some healthier, better, alternate ways to not only keep body healthy, but also to keep mind peaceful and also inner power and inner peace. I think these are two very important things. So when I started traveling in Europe, and it's now 42 years I've been traveling, and then it began with Europe and at that time some of the countries in Europe. I found that the lifestyle and people, because of the systems changing, political systems changing, and masses doesn't know how to deal with some of the things, whether it's too much control or too much suppression or too much independence. And then as I travel a lot to Latin American countries, for 30 plus years, I almost went every year to a lot of countries, and big audience there also seeking about meditation. So I think it's both aspects. One is they are very tired and they were looking for something which can give them more promising, as I said, inner strength and stability. Especially because the things are changing so much in the world. Everything is so uncertain. What is happening in the morning, you don't know what's going to happen noontime and evening. So this security is not there and stability is not there. So people start finding that from where they could get this. So I feel that basically it is of course the external situations which created this seeking. And as Vishal very nicely told that it's a long journey, and when Swami Vivekananda came and then Yogananda came, and when I came to Europe, Autography of Yogi was such a popular book, like every young person was trying to read that book. And as I said, one is seeking, but the other is that I think people start taking the part of yoga, like Raj Yoga, Vivekananda has 8 steps. So whatever was convenient, comfortable, useful. So what became very popular actually were 2 parts. One was yoga, which we call these days as physical, we see more. But in Raj Yoga, the other part which became very popular was meditation. And meditation which is more for strengthening and increasing the capacity of mind and reasoning, which is very important because as physical sense organs through our postures and exercises is important, in the same way the mental the state of mind is also something very important. When everything is not secure, then how do you feel secure? When nothing is stable, how you still keep your mind very stable? And I think that so yoga had been kind of a famous popular word, but very confusing in the sense of how do you define it. So if Michelle gives me 1 or 2 more minutes, I can just say simply word yoga is a Sanskrit word which means to connect. And it's like harmony or union. And that's the meaning of the word yoga. That means I have to connect. And it's so interesting for me, my journey began when I was reading a lot of masters in my school days, but when I was 16, I really felt that there is a lot of goodness within me and I'm going to lose very soon because of influence of what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, and all that, and I want to preserve that, something which I found is good in me. And how can I do that? So I started searching, looking, and of course came in contact with Brahma Kumaris. And so this whole aspect of that I have within me something which is very divine. I have within me something which is very pure. I have something within me which is quite nice one. But what I'm acquiring and struggling with is the conflict between how do I maintain these qualities, my virtues, my strength. And so I was looking for this union, this connection, that I being alone, and this is whole world, there is elements, nature, then of course I always believe that there is one who is also divine and supreme. So yoga really means this connectedness, this, you're not alone in this whole universe, but how do you are together in harmony with universe, by nature, with other people, and also with one who is supreme. So I had this whole thing up, and then when I understood, felt very, very comfortable that I am not alone. I am not just an individual, yes I am, but what is this whole collective energy that I could connect with the body. And because see this whole thing of breathing exercise and all that, the whole concept is to connect thought and the breath. But just imagine if you are very angry, your thoughts are not, and you're doing postures. Maybe it will relax you in a way because you're angry on your boss or someone. But what I find is also important that when you are breathing, your thoughts should be such, very positive, so that the thought is going with breath in your body. So it's not only that I have to focus on breathing, but I have to focus on thoughts with the breath is important. So yoga really means this union, this connectiveness, this harmony, where you are able to understand and you are able to manage your life and not only your mind, not only body, but whole life, completely the relationships and everything. So that's in brief actually the meaning of yoga, but it has been taken in bits and pieces. Wherever everyone felt comfortable, that's people are practicing this.
Thank you. My question for Denise is how the International Day of Yoga, again, proposed by a conservative Hindu government, was taken up very quickly by almost all of the nations of the world. And it's interesting that although it's been kind of quite controversial among some of the Muslim minorities in India, you have a lot of Muslim countries that have signed on to International Day of Yoga. And so my question is, first of all, how did this happen so quickly at the United Nations? And how do these countries understand yoga? Because I don't think you would see some of these countries signing on quite so quickly if they don't see it as a religious practice. Is it just exercise? Is it something else?
I think Sister Mohini did indicate that there was this huge consensus behind the adoption of the International Day of Yoga, and that's so true. And it's something that happened that really hasn't happened with other General Assembly resolutions. This was introduced in September at the time of the General Assembly when all the world leaders came. And then before we knew it, in the blink of an eye in December, at the end of the year, there was this adoption. Now, usually a process of a resolution takes quite a while. It could take a whole year. where there's a lot of activity, not only by member states, but also other people who are involved with the UN system, like non-governmental organization people who go and who lobby and try to persuade to have these resolutions passed. And I think that what happened at this time is there's such a consciousness for the diplomats who are in New York, who are in DC, and who are in major capital cities around the world, to say, hey, yoga is really something that is so popular. It's sort of, and I use this term mainstream because the UN uses this term mainstream. Yoga is sort of mainstream within the global consciousness to a certain extent. And the focus of the resolution really comes under the area of health and foreign policy. So it does take a look at yoga in terms of the impact on global health, in terms of the person's physical health. But it goes beyond that too, because if you take a look at some of the statements that some of these member states read or gave when this resolution was being adopted, they talked about the effect that yoga has, as Sister Mohini said, on the mind, on the emotional mind, also on the mental mind, and how it proposes clearer thinking and to help with cooperation and people working together, even within the UN, to have better working relationships and more joyful partnerships. So I think that this idea of global health is one of the tenets of the UN. And I think that the idea of health and foreign policy and using the method of yoga to propel that goal of the UN is something that member states rallied upon. So I'm happy to explore more of that later, and I think that for now I'll just leave it at that.
Sister, do you think that can yoga and religion or yoga and spirituality be separated, or are they indivisible?
I think spirituality and yoga, I think even if physical postures are done, there is somewhere deep within the spirituality aspect to come. Recently, after I had knee surgery and all that, so I started with a very good teacher, and when she speaks and she chants, and a very, very good teacher, but I find that a lot of vocabulary that she uses while guiding the postures is very spiritual. And she's a Jewish teacher, and she teaches every evening and teaches people of all religions. So religion here is more like you are born, then you have certain practices, you have certain traditions and all that. But spirituality is based on values and moral values, I think, and spiritual values. So I think yoga and spirituality, I think they cannot be separated. But when it comes to religion, like I think people of all religions can feel free to practice yoga. Recently, I had a woman from Morocco, and her husband is from Lebanon, and she keeps saying, "From where this yoga has come? What's the religion?" Because she wanted to make sure that I have not been converted. And actually, I don't think that the practice of yoga is anything to do with the conversion, but definitely it has to do a lot with spirituality. That's what.
Is that something that was debated, Denise, at the United Nations? I mean, was it just was the consensus very quick?
No, the consensus was very quick, and in addition to this focus on health, the other aspect really was about this lifestyle that's so focused on consumerism, and how do we have a mechanism to really transcend that, to have more of a concern for the natural world and the environment. Because right now the UN is creating a new blueprint that will deal with its new development agenda. You may have heard of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And one of the main thrusts of this is incorporating not only human rights and creating a better world for all peoples, but also to really take into account caring for Mother Earth and to care for all the beings, for all the animals, for the water, for the air. I mean, this is another thrust too, because when the Secretary General talks about this idea of Yoga Day, he also talked about how it's really incredible to really take care of the environment. And this is another mechanism to really help with climate change, to rally people around by using a method of yoga.
How?
Well, there's this idea of seva and service, and how people can get together to really protect the earth and to have more environmental programs, and in humanitarian disasters, for people to get together and render humanitarian aid in a more conscious way, in a way that is really different from the way that it's been happening in the past.
One aspect also is that today's world, there is so much violence, and there is killing in name of peace, there is killing in name of independence, killing in name of... So I think that's also, I think that's something which calms down people's mind and even the way the lifestyle and all that, but I think that this violence, which is terrible, it's not a joke what's going on. We could just hear the news and look at and then say, okay, it's fine, but the way it is spreading, the way, killing and... So I think that that's another aspect, that if there has to be peace, then peace is not something, okay, we say there are pieces in the world, like we have so many nations, they're like pieces. How do we bring them together in harmony and have peace in the world? But also this whole aspect of that if peace is part of the level of consciousness, because same is with climate change and all that, because let's say one of the things, what we call it as greed. Now greed has a lot to do with destroying nature, right? And it's mentioned in many holy books also that when people are greedy, they keep destroying for their, like making more money, more industrialized, the whole urban and whole, another kind of style is completely changing. So I feel that one of the, I feel acceptance also is that how will change happen? How can there be peace in the world? How can we be together? And I think that's where yoga also...
Let me ask you this, because you lived in the West for a long time. How many years, you said? Since
40 plus, yeah.
So you lived in the West as kind of an interest in yoga, in various Eastern philosophies and religions has become ascendant. Do you think it's made people better? I mean, do you think it's made people more peaceful?
Definitely, because there's a lot of personal change and a lot of, people are more together in families, families. So many people come, they are about to break relationships and for little things, they have really bad relationships. So I think it definitely helps them. And what happens is a purpose in the life comes. So this whole wild racing around for material things reduces, and then it brings in that there is something else also, because human being has a nature of craving, but it depends on what you're craving for. You just start craving for some good things, like, so I feel that it definitely changes individuals and creating communities also, where there is this kind of style of, I was reading about this whole thing of Prime Minister Modi, that how he wakes up before dawn and stay by night, asking all his ministers to do that. It's very good because, that's why one of the practice they introduced is celebrations to sun, because I used to do when I was a little girl, and they said, you have to wake up before sunrise, look at the birds are already up and you are still sleeping. So I think that definitely big change, and I feel that there will be bigger change, and we need change, right? That's very important. That means we need peace, we need love, we need harmony, we need a world of love and peace.
One more question. Why do you think it is that yoga has become such a kind of female discipline in the West, right? I mean, if you go to any class, the teachers, not any class, but 80-90% of the time, particularly if you're in a hatha yoga class, an asana class, the teachers are women, the students are women. A lot of the leaders of these kind of new religious movements, at least the ones I've written about, Theosophy was founded by one woman, Madame Blavatsky led by another woman. Obviously, the Brahma Kumaris is a movement of powerful spiritual women. What is it why has yoga become so, I guess, feminized, for lack of a better word?
There are many reasons. So one of the things the thought is coming in my mind is that because there is not balance between feminine and masculine energy, and I feel that like for me, even in my female body, but I was very much into strength and independence and creativity and all that. And I think one needs more strength for that. So when women start recognizing that I need more powers, there is some power, but I need more powers in me. So they go for that seeking. And there are some, because of, I think the arrogance also, like somebody said, it's easy for a woman to cry than men. But men needs to cry too. When they don't cry, there are more problems in the sense of many diseases come up. So the emotional, when it comes to mental and emotional, I think that feminine or woman responds to that quickly, and is an open seeking there to find that strength so that whatever role a woman has to play at home or in world, on the world stage should be able to play, so that there is balance of this energy, where there is feminine and also there is strength.
Denise, can you tell us what's happening with International Yoga Day? I know they're trying to break a world record in India. I'm a journalist, so I'm always interested in the kind of scandalous parts. There's a scandal in British Columbia because they don't want to shut down this bridge to have a big mass yoga demonstration. But what other sort of manifestations are there? I understand that there's going to be things all over the world.
Well, that's the plan, to really have awareness all over the world and for people to get together, because the way Sister Mohini said, bringing communities together does create people who are more inclined to respect one another and to then start working together and creating a better world and creating peace. So one of the things that the Secretary General is very interested in is getting people together to actually do some yoga, because he believes that it's a sport that can contribute to peace and international peace and cooperation. The UN itself is having a very high-level event at their premises, and there'll be a special program there, and some of you may know Ravi Shankar from the Art of Living Foundation will be there, and then there will be another special concert Sunday night at Avery Fisher Hall where he'll be. There's going to be many events in the U.S. and Chicago and other places. And I think that the kinds of events that happen depends on the way the communities see yoga. Some people are getting together to actually do the exercise of yoga, but I do know that there are a lot of things going on with people just coming together to chant. People are coming together to talk about projects that they can work on, this idea of seva or service and how yoga can create a better